Right. Okay. And we're good. We're up. Says we're live.
All right. What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us tonight. I know we're a little bit late, but we are here
Yes.
and you are too. So thank you for joining us. So tonight's topic is how to stop jealousy and overthinking in a relationship.
Yeah. This is a big one. A very common one, because jealousy is human emotion. It's a natural human emotion. But in particular, for various reasons that we'll get into, it can be hard to deal with within a relationship. And it's going to require some inner work, some outer work within the relationship, all of which we'll dig into on how you can actually do this and work through it, because it's really easy to be able to work through it once you're willing to, put in the work that's going to require.
Right. And also too, it's situational.
Mm-hmm.
You may be you may have good reasons to be provoked into jealousy. So I'm not trying
Right.
to discount anybody and trying to say that your situation isn't real.
Right.
But let's dive into this topic. And do you have a letter tonight?
Yep. A
Okay.
quick question that this is based off of. It's always nice to have a question that sets kind of the stage so you can understand, we all can understand kind of how this would play out within a relationship, and then work through it together, right? On what it would look like and how we could work through it. So the subject is how do I stop overthinking like this? I just recently got into a relationship after 7 months of not having one. During those 7 months, I went through the whole gotta stay single and I don't need anyone phase, which made me build up a wall where I don't really trust anyone, especially people of the opposite gender. But when I met my boyfriend, something changed in me and I agreed to a relationship. Everything is going good and he's treating me well and much better than all of my exes combined, but I still have that part of me where I'm overthinking he will cheat or leave me, and it causes anxiety attacks. I can't stop my jealousy when he talks to his female friends too. How do I stop this? I feel like it's progressively getting worse and I can't control it.
How does she stop this? It takes mind. She has to change her mind and her approach about the relationship. She has to go through therapy in order to get rid of those bags of the previous relationship. These are just my 2 cents from what I'm seeing from this relationship. That's only her boyfriend too, so she has to understand they're in a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship, and she has to get an A+ on this audition for marriage. Yes, because a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship is an audition for marriage. So she has to not psych herself out. And that's what she's doing here with thinking about jealousy in the relationship, not having trust. That is the problem too, that they are brand new. So they don't trust each other. And she has mentioned she got trust issues. So
Yeah.
this is typical, very typical in young relationships, early relationships, and knowing that you're coming from a breakup. And she went to I gotta stay single and I don't need anyone. I call that your well, you call it your 304 phase. So that's what hers is. So
It could play out that way. I think in this whole phase, it can play out, some women just completely, or men too, they completely like don't socialize or whatever, just so it can play out different, in the whole bunch of people. But yes, certainly that's
I,
the more dangerous
right,
route.
yeah. I mean, I might be, over exaggerating, but that's what that
No,
looks like to
that
me.
happens.
During
Yeah.
the 7 months, I went through the whole gotta stay single and I don't need anyone phase.
I like that she acknowledged that, though. I think that's a super important factor in figuring out kind of where
Her
this,
mindset is.
yeah, and where this kind of all came from. Because, like you were pinpointing right in the beginning, it's repetitive thoughts. And overthinking is something that's, pretty common as well, too, especially now, unfortunately, because it really does create other hindrances, which will certainly make jealousy even bigger, even if you're not, actually presented with any reason to be jealous. So
It's trust issues to me. I mean, that's what it comes off as. But
yeah.
you got some good points, talking points. Let's get into it.
Yeah, for sure. Because there are a lot of reasons why a person may struggle with trust within a relationship. Believe it or not, and with some of them, first, the main one I kind of think would stimulate a lot of it, especially if you're being treated well already, may be low self esteem. So, we're going to go through some of the reasons. And if you just so happen to, all of this, of course, we always say is about awareness. So, if you just so happen to have one of these things and it clicks for you, this is a great moment for you to be able to recognize where, trust issues could be coming from, because this is going to be important for the next step that we'll get into a little bit later. So, first, low self-esteem. People with low self-esteem often, feel that they're unworthy of their spouse's love. So in particular, this guy, he is treating her well. She had probably a previous, maybe bad relationship before the 7 months single thing. So, with that being the case, sometimes it can create this feeling of, unworthiness, and maybe even like the insecurity of, could my spouse like find someone else that's better? Am I, up to par for them? Is there someone that they dated before that was maybe more intelligent, successful, whatever, it can just play out in a whole bunch of different ways. But that's certainly one reason low self-esteem would certainly contribute to you having trust issues.
Or either, she could have past trauma from a bad breakup, because those guys cheated on her. Her exes cheated on her,
or
too.
left. That brings us to the next one, fear of abandonment, right?
Right. Yep. So fear of abandonment. People who have a fear of abandonment, they may be especially prone to jealousy.
Yeah.
So they may worry that their spouse will leave them for someone else, and this fear can lead to controlling or possessive behaviors.
Yeah.
And I could see that coming from her.
It could, yeah. It could. All of this, of course, this is things where you have to recognize it, because if you don't, they will get worse over time, because it's kind of like an unchecked bad habit, something that you have to get control over, because if you don't, it'll just lead to more bad habits.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So also too, unrealistic expectations. So we talk about this often. People who have unrealistic expectations about relationships may also be more likely to experience jealousy.
Yeah.
So for example, if you expect your spouse to be available to you 24/7, they may become jealous if their spouse spends time with other people. In this case, he's talking to other females.
Yeah, the female
She has every right to
friend.
be jealous in that aspect, but she has to realize that she's only a girlfriend. So there are different rules that they need to develop in their relationship, and
Yeah.
things that they need to talk about, so that they can solidify building blocks in their relationship in order for them to ultimately get married. And one of them is, of course, shedding old friends.
Yeah.
And he's talking to females.
Yeah.
That would make you jealous.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for certain.
Right. But at the same token, there's no rings on her finger.
Right.
So she has to realize that she has to, like I said, she has to get an A+ on this audition in order to be his wife, because those female friends that he have, well, little do she may not know, they may also be contestants in the game of love with him.
Competition,
Right.
and that's kind of probably maybe where it could be staring up naturally, because you just know, like, wow, like
He got other females.
Yeah, there are
Where do I
females around,
place
yeah.
in his life? Evidently, obviously, right now you may be number one. But ladies and gentlemen, this is just a realistic situation, especially in young love and those
Yeah.
situations that they go through. Often at times, women, you are competing with other females when it comes to young men, young guys, young boys, I would say. Until the intention of marriage is established, that is where you currently are.
Yeah.
So I can see where jealousy may come into play here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And she is certainly right. Again, that's why we certainly wanted to bring up the fact that jealousy is a natural human emotion. We all feel it, but it's just about being able to come get a handle of it and have grips on what's that emotion, so that you can keep it in check. And then, like my husband's pointing out, it doesn't stop you from shining within your relationship, because you'll show, like, I'm confident within myself, and I can control all of this, although I know there may be some competition.
She really needs to discuss with her boyfriend about the intention on getting married. I know they've
Certainly.
only been together for about 7 months, but it's very important
that
conversation happens. That will help relieve her of a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. And we'll actually get into how to have this conversation later on, because that's really important. And we love to be able to walk you through that so that then you may feel more confident going further and having this conversation, because that's what's really going to have to happen. And the nice thing about it, I'm sure your spouse should be open to it, especially if he's already, treating you well and showing you that he's interested in you. It's more than okay to bring some of your concerns to him and say, hey, I'm thinking about moving forward. These are my concerns. How do you feel? But we'll get into that a little bit later. But
Yep.
anyways, want to move on?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. So, like past experiences of betrayal, we kind of hit on that a little bit before, but that's certainly a reason why someone would have, trust issues. And although we always talk about it's really important to be able to go back and heal from those past experiences so that you're not bringing that baggage into the next relationship, because ultimately it's just going to hold you back and kind of stop you from doing the great things you want to do in your relationship, because you're fearful of the cycle repeating when you are the only one that has to break that cycle, whether that's in your mind or physically with the person. Whatever, it's going to play out in different ways, but you can't be hyper vigilant on betrayal or somebody leaving you, or like the same thing that happened to you in the past happening. You really have to, be sure to not allow that to cloud your judgment, because ultimately it will cause you to misinterpret your spouse's behavior sometimes, because it's like looking through a hazy glass. Some hazy glasses, or that's the best way I can think of the analogy, but like looking through hazy glasses
I mean,
because you're thinking your spouse is, doing something.
the system is the situation is approached through bias.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's what's going on. So
yeah,
you cannot bring your past situations into a new relationship. We always preach that. Go get help with the trauma that you've been through, so
yeah,
that you won't self sabotage your new relationship.
yeah. And push your spouse away, because you could be accusing them of, doing whatever when that's not even, what's going on. But
Right.
in your mind, you're triggered. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too, because triggers play a huge part in this as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Attachment style. So people who are insecure attachment,
Yeah.
or with an I'm sorry, people with an insecure attachment style may be more likely to experience jealousy in their relationships.
Yeah.
So this is because they may have a fear of abandonment, and they may worry that their spouse will not be there for them.
Yeah. And everybody, I guess, has their own attachment styles, and a lot of this too would be based maybe on childhood and how you grew up, and the dynamics that you've seen within relationships. It can all play out different ways, but you just have to know how, if you could be attaching in an unhealthy way, which we kind of hit on a little bit about, if you constantly need your spouse like always around, or always affirming you, or always having to do these things to keep you afloat, versus naturally being able to maintain that within yourself.
Mhm.
Yep. Well, overthinking, we'll get into overthinking a little bit too, because this is the next thing that you're looking to overcome. And overthinking can certainly make jealousy worse in so many different ways. First, it can lead to that repetitive thinking, the rumination, where you're constantly having the cycle of just thinking negative thoughts all the time. And the brain, it will be programmed to continually do it. And eventually, it's like trying to stop a car going 1,000 miles per hour, because you're constantly having these repetitive thoughts that will boomerang into other repetitive thoughts. And eventually it becomes like too intense and persistent. And that's probably what's causing these anxiety attacks that you're getting, because then you're just full on, in your head. So it's just really important that you learn to think about other ways that you can imagine them in your mind. So, in particular, if you are having these anxious thoughts, you can be imagining them in your mind flirting with other people, or like you can imagine them going off to work and cheating on you in some way. Like, all of that really does contribute to the overall dynamic of your relationship, because in your mind, you're creating these scenarios that eventually could play out on maybe even a smaller scale or whatever. But either way, these thoughts will be very intrusive, and they will be very hard to deal with sometimes. So it's just important to be mindful of how you're thinking of your spouse in your mind, and say, hey, I'm not going to think of them that way. Instead, I'm going to think of that happy moment that I have with them, or that moment where I feel safe and secure, and I know that, they like me, they're attracted to me. Those are the thoughts that you have to kind of switch and think more about. So, I mean, that again, it's certainly easier said than done, especially when you're talking about a full on anxiety attack. So, you're going to be in the thick of a whole bunch of thoughts that may be triggering, even more thoughts. So, it's just how you can, in that moment of time, find detachment, how you can figure out how to soothe yourself, maybe breathing, maybe focusing on that present moment, what you're doing, what's in front of you, point out something that's visibly in your vicinity that's going to bring you back into the present moment, because you kind of get lost in your thoughts and you go off, somewhere else.
Yep.
And that's the whole attack, but it's your brain in a way.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
second, overthinking can lead to catastrophizing,
Hmm.
catastrophizing, which is the belief that the worst possible outcome will happen. So,
Yeah.
for example, you may start to doubt your own worth. You
Yeah.
may think that you're not good enough for your spouse, or that they could easily find someone better.
Yeah.
So these thoughts can make you feel insecure and anxious, and which can make you feel jealous, and make your jealousy even worse.
Yeah, certainly. And it could also lead to avoidance. Certain times, if you feel like you have found out, these are the things that are triggering you to feel this way, maybe justifiable or not, it would just lead you to avoid those situations, and or even avoid talking about the whole ordeal with your spouse, because it's triggering, because it sends you into that, spiral of anxiety attacks. And ultimately that's going to hinder your progress of being able to address the underlying issue, and that's the most important thing. So really try to get grips on your thoughts in particular, and doing those things and finding out those things that work for you. It's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's brain has been programmed their own its own way, and that really starts from childhood. So you just have to identify how you were programmed, and then figure out ways to break that programming and reprogram yourself, especially if you have those repetitive thoughts.
Yeah. And so you may also start becoming controlling or possessive
Yeah.
because of jealousy and overthinking. So you might try to restrict your spouse's interactions with other people, or you might become suspicious of their behavior. So
Yeah.
these behaviors can damage the relationship and make the jealousy even more entrenched.
Yeah, especially if your spouse is, maybe that girl best friend that he has is someone he's known his whole life, and that's his buddy, like his sister, that could actually be off-putting if he's not quite ready to figure out how he wants to, establish this relationship along with yours. So you don't want to, kind of break the whole thing of figuring out how you guys can fit into each other's life so soon by just saying, oh, you can't hang out with this person, or you can't do this because, I'm feeling this way or whatever. It's really important to just talk about those boundaries that are good for both of you.
Yep. And analyze your spouse's every word and
Oh,
actions.
these are the, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
had got you confused, but it was talking about the examples, some other examples of how overthinking in your relationship, what that could look like.
Okay. Yeah. So here's some examples.
Yeah.
So analyzing your spouse's every word and action. So you may constantly be wondering what your spouse means by what they say, or what they did something, or if they did something a certain way. This can lead to a lot of anxiety and uncertainty, and it make it difficult to relax and enjoy your relationship. So that reminds me of like texting. So if
Mm,
you're jealous and you're an anxious person, often at times you're left on cliffhangers when it comes to texting, because you don't have that emotional connection.
yeah.
So it's better for you, if you're this type of person, you're trying to work yourself through this. It's better for you to pick up that phone and call the person, have a video conversation, or either call them physically, so that you can hear the
Yeah.
flexion in their tone, and don't always have to think that it's always leading to some sort of argument or
Right.
some other situation.
Right. Yep. So true. It can also look like worrying about your future. So constantly sitting there and thinking on whether your relationship is going to last, or where you're going, or if, it's your spouse is maybe still committed to you as much as he has always been, because of maybe new relationships, or just the overall dynamic of your relationship in general. It can make it a stressful way to live if you aren't able to focus on that present moment. So overthinking can really mess you up sometimes. Yeah.
Yep. And then also too, reliving past arguments or negative experiences.
Yeah.
You might find yourself constantly thinking about arguments you've had with your spouse
Yeah.
or about negative experiences you've
Yeah.
shared. So this can be a very destructive way to think, and it can make it difficult to move on from past problems.
Mm-hmm.
I can think that, especially these people who overthink, they're always thinking about those arguments. And so therefore they're always, the next thing they come out their mouth is something negative and may also start an argument. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah, it's like you ruin your mood within
Self,
yourself.
yeah. You're self-sabotaging yourself. So
Yeah.
you're never happy,
Yeah,
especially if
yeah,
you're always thinking about the negative arguments.
yeah. Because as much as we kind of don't like to admit something like this, it's overthinking really is self-inflicted, and it's something that you just have to naturally come into terms with and realize, like, hey, I'm doing this. Like, ooh, let me snap back. Let me
Right.
bring it here. Come back.
And the hard thing about this too, to say for this, if her boyfriend was not doing anything wrong at
Yeah.
all, and she says that he's a good guy, she's probably still taking this type of stuff out on him, because of the negative thoughts and what that of all that stuff that she's projecting, and that's unfortunate because if he's a good guy, that is a good way or a bad way for a woman to actually, like you said earlier, to chase off a good man.
Yeah.
So that's what you're seeing here. And that's how often, that these situations occur where women lose a good man is because of their
Mhm.
past experiences in which they have not overcame and got some sort of counseling to help them with,
Yeah.
you know.
You saying that brought into my mind when she said that she had the gotta stay single, I don't need anyone type of
Yeah.
mindset.
That comes from hurt
Yeah, and that's 7 months worth of that programming,
programming.
literally. Like, as much as I would never downplay how powerful thought is. And for you to be able to consciously recognize that, hey, for 7 months, I thought this way, there's no way you're just going to be able to
Yep.
immediately snap that off and be happy within your relationship. You're going to kind of go into it with,
Right.
I got to say, let me pinpoint what's going on so I can stay single
Right.
because I don't need nobody.
But a lot of people downplay that and then just jump into a relationship thinking that they're okay and they're not. And they end up
Yeah.
like this woman who's hyper vigilant and
Yeah.
over anxious and jealous and all of the, isms or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be with
Yeah.
her and her personality.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to think that that's a problem. This young lady caught it. She got it.
Yeah.
And you
Yes,
may look at
absolutely. Yeah.
this, look at the people around you who are single. Look at the women who are around you who are single. What are their mindsets like? How long have they been single? How long have they had these type of mindsets?
Yeah.
Find the correlation. The correlation is that the problem is them. Their
Yeah.
mindset is the fact that they can't change their minds, and they can't. They need help.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. They need
Yeah.
physical help. They need counseling, and this is something they need 7 months of deprogramming and some sort of active counseling in order to get through their trauma.
Right.
This
Yeah.
self-inflicted trauma. Well, I ain't gonna say it's self-inflicted. Of course, they probably have been through some sort of bad situation in which got them there.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if they continue to do this to good people, they're self-sabotaging what could be a great relationship.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody out there who needs to hear this message, and I mean the things that we've already said, at the end of this recording, please share it with them, because they're going to get some good information about this and hopefully a moment of reflection, and they can review themselves and say, you know what, this is me, and he's right. I really need some help.
Yeah.
And people downplay relationships all the time, but it leaves people scarred. Bad relationships leaves people scarred, and they think they can go and try it again with somebody else, and it doesn't work. Even though if they were the victim themselves, that makes it all of the reason why you need to go and find some help somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's so true. Never deny that help, especially if you know that, you need it.
Right.
I think that independent mindset, and when you naturally cling on to that too, you cling on to I can do it on my own. I can fix it on my own. I can, all on my own, and that, truth be told, is not realistic
and
with a
then
lot of things.
to put it into perspective, I think I read a statistic somewhere. They said that after a breakup, You know how long it takes you to get over a breakup? Just the same amount of time you were in that relationship
Huh,
for
that
you to
makes sense.
stop longing for this person, and you don't even know why you're longing for this person. This person may have done you wrong, but you were in an 11-year relationship with this person.
Mhm.
And so it's going to take you another 11 years to get over this person, if not more.
Yeah.
And you just don't even know why. This person, so you hate this person's guts. But the thing is that you may say that, I am over this person, but the fact that you hate this person guts shows that you're not.
Yeah.
You're not, because you would have no care in the world about that way. You would not have any single emotion about that person, and you just wish them luck. That's
Mhm.
just the bottom line.
Yeah, and my own personal experience, I remember when having therapy when I was younger, that was one thing that the therapist said, like for me, in that connection of how long you were abused is the same amount of time of how
Time.
long
Yep.
it's going to take for you to get over the abuse, plus maybe a little
Some
more,
more. Yep.
because then you got to start healing.
Mm,
So it's
yep.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
and then the same thought can be applied to habit. It takes like 3 months to kind of like get a habit in and then ingrained. So if you look in the habit of thoughts, if you have been thinking a certain thought for at least 3 months, then you know for sure that that is a habit, and it's going to take some time for you to bring it on back and
right.
change it around.
Right. And we don't hear this enough, because I
Yeah.
heard that on the news once about breakups. I just heard it once. And I was like, man, for a lot of folks, that's a long time. It's a
Hmm.
long time for them to get over that.
Yeah, especially those long-term relationships that were, or situationships, or whatever you
Right.
want to
Yeah. You
call
don't
it.
even
Yeah.
have to be in a, marriage in
Yeah.
order to have, issues as far as relationships go. You can just be, like my
Yeah.
wife said, friends with benefit situations that you
Yeah.
hiddenly on the inside thought that would amount to something. So even those people too, there's a
Yeah.
lot of hurt people out here.
Yeah.
To put that all in perspective, there's a lot of hurt people out here, so you all be careful.
Yeah, you want to
um
take the time to heal yourself for
yeah,
sure.
so let's get back
Top
on
it a little
topic.
bit.
Yeah, so digress a little bit. So comparing yourself to your spouse's ex spouses or other people they're attracted to. So
Yeah.
you may find yourself constantly comparing yourself to your spouse's exes, ex-spouses, or to other people's they're attracted to. So
Yeah.
they can be very destructive. This can be a very destructive way to think, and it can make you feel insecure and inadequate.
Yeah.
This is self-destruction, another sign of that.
Yeah, 'cause you don't really have to pay attention to so much what happened before you. I mean, it's always, if your spouse wants to share, their relationship, and I always think it's great to eventually get to that point where you guys are talking about, why your last relationships failed, the things you learned from them, just for the whole shared experience moment. But this isn't something for you to indulge in. Don't sit there and overanalyze about it, overthink about it, start comparing yourself, researching on social media and all that other stuff. Like, that's not going to do you any good at all.
Or
And
trying to change your physical
yeah,
looks,
yeah, to
to try to
match. Yeah, yeah, that's extreme, but yeah, heard it being done. Like,
hmm
yeah, you got to be careful with stuff like that. I
and then
mean,
you're trying to one up. You're trying to change your appearance
yeah,
to look either like the ex or either look better than the ex. What that man got with you because of who you are currently. So stay
yeah.
the same, don't change.
Right. Yeah.
You
And
know,
just naturally accentuate the things that he already finds beautiful about you. That's going to make you stand out more than trying to be like the ex. That's not, that's,
yeah, because
yeah.
that's counterproductive.
Yeah. Because competition is supposed to keep you on your toes so
Right.
that you can be,
And then also too, he left you because he didn't like her. He didn't want you to be like her.
right.
So
Yeah. He left her for that. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
that's
Exactly.
wild. People
Yeah.
do that though. So
Yeah, you just don't want to fall, these things that we kind of covered, you just don't want to fall victim to having these overthinking patterns, or like the destructive thoughts that really will leach out into the relationship, because your inner reality really does create your outer reality, or at least the temperature, especially when it comes to your relationship. Because like my husband says, if you're always thinking negative things about your spouse, or if you're always living in this fantasy of something going wrong, then you're going to be actively looking for that within your reality. And then that, you know, don't be surprised when life gives you that evidence you've been looking for. Seriously. So,
right. Yep.
yeah.
So it is important to remember that jealousy is a normal emotion. It is. However, it is causing you distress,
Yeah.
especially if you find yourself overthinking about it,
Yeah.
or if it's affecting your relationship. So it's important to talk to your spouse about it. You need to also go get help outside of the relationship, because you shouldn't use your spouse as your therapy. You know,
Yeah.
as crazy as that may seem, they may seem biased to you, and often at times they may just, may not be interested or going through something themselves.
Yeah.
So it's always, great to pay a third party person who has a vested interest or expertise in helping and counseling people. So
Yeah.
just understand that you need to try to break that cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. And you may need help. But
Right.
of course, the first step is always communication. That is
Yes.
literally going to be your answer for every show that we have. And really, we're just going to help you figure out how to communicate more effectively and get comfortable with having these conversations, because really, you got to be able to communicate with your spouse in order for you to have that long-term lasting relationship that you're really looking for. So let's go into how this would look, this whole conversation that this lady needs to have with her man. Yeah. So first, start by acknowledging your feelings. So you're gonna let me just bring it on back a bit. Set the stage, right? I always, 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 always recommend, especially within my wife economics course, one of the major things I always recommend for women, especially when they want their man to better receive what you're trying to say, what the conversation you're going to have, and even just so that you can know how you can objectively hit your goals of what you're trying to communicate, being able to set the stage for that to happen. So
What is your wife economics course?
oh, the 7-week implementation program for actually learning these wife skills and being able to communicate, have a successful relationship with your spouse for a whole week. We go into first communication after we've gone through the wife mentality and all that great stuff we dig into, but we have a whole week on harmonious communication and then also troubleshooting communication. So this is something we're very used to, and we, know how to be able to walk you through this. But in particular, you want to be able to set that stage with how looking at the timing, looking at the environment. Is this a good time to have this conversation? Is he not stressed out? What's the timing? Is it after work? Is it early in the morning? When's the best time to have this conversation? And you would know that as his spouse. So pay attention to, his rise and his fall of maybe even the testosterone levels within him, to where he would be more open and comfortable listening to you and wanting receptive in a way to wanting to have this conversation, because this is a big one. This is one where you want him to be able to want to work with you during this time and have plenty of time to express his feelings with you. So please make sure that it's a good time to have this conversation before you just do it. Don't do it when you're in the midst of overthinking. Don't do it when you're in the midst of fantasizing something bad or waking up from something, a bad dream or a bad thought. That is not the time to try to have that conversation, believe it or not, even if it feels impulsive. It really isn't. It needs to be a time where it's really calculated and well thought out. So anyways, first start off, tell your spouse that, I've been feeling jealous. I've been having these emotions, and then try to explain why. This is going to be really important for him being to understand what's going on with you, and not so much like you're saying it's him. He's doing these things that are causing you to feel this way. It's more
Mm-mm.
so, I am feeling this because of this.
Right. Yeah, I agree. This is a very pivotal point of that relationship, because they only known each other for 7 years. So
Yeah.
she would know the intention of this man after she had this conversation.
Yeah.
So it's up to him whether he wants to be in this relationship, or either he could leave.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but at
And you
least
want
she'll
him.
know she's not wasting her time.
Yeah, and you just want it to be a more favorable for you. That's really what it is. You don't want it, and in the end, in order to make it more favorable for you, you have to set it up so that he's going to be receptive and want to do this with you. So don't downplay and just think you can just do this any willy-nilly type of way.
Right.
And also too, you want to be relaxed, right? You want to be in a point where you're not already anxious and freaking out. You want to be comfortable so that you can be open and honest, because this is that open and honest conversation that you're going to have, even if it's difficult to talk about.
Right. I can see that they could do this on a lunch date. You
Yeah,
know,
however y'all work.
lunch.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Testosterone levels about even. Not too hungry though. Because that's that's
Right.
the main focus. You don't want to be hangry and trying to have this
Yeah.
conversation.
Right.
So probably midway through lunch, have this conversation. And I can see that that could probably possibly the best, best energy level, not too tired, not too awake,
Right.
so it's
Right.
red midday, so you're going to get the best of both worlds as far as a conversation goes.
Yeah, especially if y'all have been on good terms, right? And
Right.
the lady mentioned that, your relationship's pretty good. So that's a great thing. You're not saying y'all already arguing and stuff. So, that's nice. But once you've shared your feelings and your perspective, then offer your spouse the opportunity to share his feelings and perspective of, what's going on. And maybe even too, he can have, some insight into some things that he may have noticed, or, some things that he may think that he could do to help. Who knows? But that's also how you're going to go ahead and get into the setting up the boundaries and things that are going to make the relationship more comfortable for both of you. So, yeah, you just want also to the opportunity for him to really reassure you in that moment, especially because if he really is interested in you and you're telling him that this is something that you're going through and you're letting him know, this isn't you, this is something I'm going through, but I'm letting so that hopefully this awareness would help us be able to work through it together, because all issues you're going to have to work through it together, even if it is just your spouse dealing with it. So this can go far as deep as and depression, all sorts of losing a parent, all sorts of different things that you're going to have to go through. And even if it's just your spouse, which is the one who's really having the issue. So you just got to be able to get comfortable tackling issues together. But in that time, men in particular too, if the woman is coming to you and she's saying, I'm having these issues, be okay with offering that as a moment of reassurance, especially if you really like her. It's soothing a woman and her feelings, especially after she's opened up to you, will really help to bring down a lot of that anxiety and give her a good moment for her to be able to reference, because you have actively out of your mouth told her what she needed to hear. So then that just gets that out the way. She can't ever say, "Oh, you ain't never tell me, why you ain't tell me you love me," stuff like that. So a woman really, we need that. And that's important. And men too. So just be okay with, offering that reassurance that you're committed and you're willing to work through this with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So talk about the root of your jealousy. So what is it about your spouse's behavior or actions that make you feel jealous?
Yeah.
Or is it caused by something you experienced in the past? So once
Yeah.
you understand the root of your jealousy, you can start to address it.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to focus on, the problem, not the person. So
Right.
it's not him that you're having issues with. It's really, like my wife said, it's her and her jealousy that she's having issues with.
Yeah. And all those reasons we talked about in the beginning of this video, we're here now. So this is the moment where sit down and write about it. Hey, if you think within your head after watching this video, these are the reasons why I'm thinking I'm overthinking or I'm jealous. Write that down so maybe that you can better garner your words to be able to verbalize this to your spouse. And it'll, just help ease some of that anxiety about being able to just talk about the experience, especially if it's something that happened in the past. Yep. Also, then this will set it up to the next part of being able to set up boundaries and address certain things that, if, for example, your spouse is giving you some issues that are, sparking up jealousy in particular, like his friend, whatever his friend
Mhm.
is, that's that moment to talk about that. So after you've address your own root issues of kind of where this came from, go into, some things that may be triggering. This is your triggers at this moment, and he needs to know this. So if, for example, you're talking about their relationship, maybe they talk on the phone late at night or something like that, and you don't really, it can make you feel a little jealous because it's late at night and you would prefer they don't talk so late at night. That would be kind of the conversation and time to bring this up. Be open to hearing what your spouse has to say in response to this too, not as a way like they're just going to shoot you down if they be like, "Oh no, like I ain't doing that," but just more so of that y'all can get to a common starting point right? So figuring out what one person thinks about it, and then the next person thinks about it, and then you can move the goalposts a little bit more to figure out, okay, well, how can we get to this point, and then keep going. So just really be able to talk about what is possibly making you feel insecure or jealous.
Right. Yeah, because that definitely can be one.
Hmm.
He really need if he's really all in about her, then he needs to give up those female friends. To be honest with you, or
Especially if they're not married.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
or yeah, especially if they're not married. Because those they've only known each other for 7 months.
No, she didn't even say. That
How
was,
long they
remember,
known each other?
that was 7 months that she was in that single phase, but she
Right,
didn't even
because those
say.
could still be ex girlfriends
Right.
that he dated. So I mean, they need to establish those boundaries.
Yeah.
And then definitely they need to work on building trust. That's the bottom line to all of this. If you're feeling jealous, it's likely that you don't trust your spouse. So
Yeah.
talk to them about how you can build trust in your relationship. This might involve sharing your thoughts and feelings more openly,
Yeah.
or it might involve making some changes to your behavior. He needs to work on building trust in the relationship, and like the reassurance portion of it, that's what he needs to tell her, that I'm, I don't mind giving up those female friends for you. That's
Yeah.
nothing, if he's all in about it. But the caveat to that is that he don't even really know her if they've only
Right.
dated each other for 7 months yet.
No,
So
we don't even know if it's 7 months. She didn't
right, I
say,
don't know
but
if they
yeah.
were living together, or you don't know what type of milestones they
Yeah.
made as far as relationship goes. So
Right.
um, that makes a lot of differences building trust. They have to do something there. They gotta do something to start building trust with each other.
Yeah, that's so true. And whatever that is going to look like is going to be different, but you both have to be willing to give and take here. Y'all
Yep,
not going to,
compromise.
and not everybody's going to win at some point. But, and I also do want to clarify, we're not saying that, he can't have friends and stuff like that. Some men are perfectly able to maintain relationships with
It's it's
other women, I
it,
guess, if
it's
that's
it's it's whatever
if
she
they real.
allow.
Yeah.
That's out of the respect of your wife. So men who have female friends, that's out of the respect of the wife. You ask the wife or the girlfriend or whatever, what have you.
Their opinion. Yeah. How
Yeah,
they
you
feel
do you
about it.
mind about
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? Does it make you uncomfortable? If it does, and I don't mind, it is what it
Or
is.
setting up some boundaries. I can see it being easier, especially if the friend is married, then it's less of a, but if this is just a single friend, hanging around
Right.
all the time, like, what you doing here? Like, you just, yeah, eh,
Right.
it depends. Everybody's different. But yeah, that's certainly something that you're going to have to address and be brave about what you're going to want to have in your relationship and what you don't want to have in your relationship. So, and if he's really more interested, like you said, more interested in you being his wife, then it shouldn't be an issue, of wife, friend. It's just not how it goes.
Right.
Like, sorry, but yeah. Let's see, what is this? Oh, this kind of goes back into so if you find yourself having an anxiety moment in this time, right, within this conversation, it's really important to put into practice some of the things that I hope you take the time to figure out how you're going to recenter yourself and talk yourself down off of your anxiety issues. Because was it, I don't want to take what she said exactly, but she said, I feel like it's progressively getting worse and I can't control it. So this is something that you actively have to do on your own. There's nothing that he is going to be able to do in this moment to help you.
That's right.
Here, it's not. So this is something that you're going to have to get a grips on. It's really, really important. And that is going to have to apply to even when you're going into having these conversations or any other conversation that may make you anxious as you move on through your relationship. You have to learn how to work through this anxiety and control it, because it's not bigger than you. It's inside of you.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around.
It will consume
Yeah,
you.
yeah. But it could. Yeah, it could consume you if you let
if
it.
you ain't
Right.
doing nothing about it, it's going to consume you.
Yes.
It's going to end your relationship. Yeah. It's going to cause a lot of fights and arguments.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't want that to happen. So it's great that you have acknowledged that this is something that's getting worse. And in particular, because you've said this, I really, really would recommend getting a coach, getting a
A
therapist, getting
mentor,
a
somebody,
mentor,
a
a
married.
trusted
Make sure they're
friend.
married.
Yes, don't try to work on this on your
My
own,
own, yeah,
because right now is a call. You're asking for that help. So recognize that and then be active in getting yourself that help.
right.
Nobody's going to do that for you.
You know, and to be honest with you, even if this relationship with him doesn't work out, she's going to carry these bags into her next relationship.
Yeah, yeah, because
And
anxiety's with you. Yeah.
right, so is you all get what I'm saying? Like, this is something that's bigger than her that she more than likely cannot fix on her own. She's going to need help with it.
Yeah.
And also, too, her boyfriend is not going to be able to help her at the fact that he can help with reassurance and support. But as far as the guidance and the actual steps that she needs to take, he probably does not know what those are.
And to be honest, he can offer all the support he wants,
Yep.
but she's not going to be receptive on it if she doesn't do that on her own.
Right.
So
Right.
we can say all we want to say, and he could do all he want to do, but unless you actively choose to do these things and work on this and get control over it and not relinquish all your power to something that's actually within you, then you're not going to really be able to move forward from this.
Yep. You're not going to be able to give your best or give your all to him in this relationship.
Yeah, or any relationship, even your day-to-day life. This will ripple off and start to affect all around. Like, you could drop deep into a deeper depression because of not addressing things. Our society has got to stop looking at things that we recognize as something that's damaging within us, our behaviors. Yeah, and just letting it go, or chalking up that to, oh, that's just them. No, that is not just them. Like, this person is going through something and they need that help. And it's important that, one, that person can recognize it, and then two, actively be able to go out and get the help they need.
Right. So the feelings, the emotions are normal. We stated that.
Yeah.
But consistently and constantly, overthinking stuff.
Yeah.
Or always feeling jealous, that's not normal. And especially if nothing has happened. That's not normal at all. You're basically just, manifesting things out of nowhere.
Right.
That's not normal.
Right. It's not. And it's important to get that help.
And I know you all know somebody that does that, or you've been around somebody who does this type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we get it. I get it. And I empathize because I understand. I have anxiety. I grew up in a very stressful childhood, and then triples down. But it's super important. Once you recognize it, please do all you can to get control of it and know that you have that power to do that. You genuinely really do have all that power within you to do it, although it can be, a little daunting. Just be willing to take it step by step by step. Coax yourself down that anxiety step by step by step. Like, figure out things that you can add into your routine that's easy for you to do, some things that are natural for you to quickly be able to recognize and do within that moment. As some people, one cliche thing is to, think of your happy place. That's one thing I'm sure somebody has heard as one easy way to try to snap yourself back into reality, thinking of that happy place or something like that. But it's going to be different for everybody. But we all within society have to figure out what works for us in a way that we can center ourselves, so that when we do feel stressed out, or we do feel anger, or we do feel sadness, or we do feel jealousy, or we do feel all these emotions that are natural within the human, we are able to process it in a healthy way. A lot of times our environments as a childhood doesn't teach us how to do that. And that's okay. You can't dwell on what you didn't get as a child, or blame your parents or anything like that, because once you're an adult and you recognize that this is something that needs to be addressed, you have to actively, like parenting yourself, go back and address it and fix it, so that you can go out into the world as a healthy, healed adult who is able to have these healthy, healed relationships.
Be whole again.
Yeah.
To be whole again. Yep. So also to focus on the positive aspects of your relationship, of course. So when you're feeling jealous, it is easy to focus on the negative, but you need to focus on the positive. So however, it is important to remember all of the good things about your spouse and your relationship and where you are currently and what made you all fall in love and how you all got there.
Yeah, this is the honeymoon, especially in particular because we don't know how long I've been dating. It couldn't have been that long.
It's supposed to be the
This is the
honeymoon
honeymoon
phase.
phase. Yeah, y'all supposed to be really, your mind should be all on just the excitement of this new love and this joyous experience that you're in and you're sharing with
Fear.
this
She
guy.
came into the relationship with fear. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you all, this is common. A lot of women sabotage their relationships, or either, some men too. But I
Yes.
think it's more common with women as far as, because of past relationships. They go into the relationship with fear, and ultimately it ends up in a separation of either, if it's a marriage and into a divorce.
I think men too, now more than ever
Well, yeah,
too.
because men are,
Yeah.
refusing to get married
And a lot of that
because they
has to
don't
do
they
with
don't have that
fear.
they don't yeah, they fear that all these women are going to do is leave. But there's ways to protect you men out there
There's a
from
lot of things to
marriage,
do.
and making sure that you're not getting taken, especially for your money. So
Right.
there are ways that you can protect yourself and still get married,
Yeah.
and making sure that the marriage is fair for
Yeah.
both of you. And then also too, the making sure that it will be hard for your wife to leave you. There
Or
are
want to
ways,
leave
or
you.
want to leave
Yeah.
you, right? So if a lot of guys think that all these women out here want is money because you're taking bad advice or listening to somebody on the internet talk about,
Who's hurt too.
right, talk about all these bad relationships. Don't fall into that trap, because you yourself is creating trauma by listening to all this negative mess that's up there.
Yeah, one thing that I know, and I'm not going to get too personal, but fear and love does not exist in the same frequency. We're talking about down to a scientific molecular level, and we're all energetic vibrational beings. Those are two literally different vibrations, fear and love. You could have the experience of love, but the moment you feel fear, you drop yourself out of that experience of love and enter into a realm that love is nowhere near, because now you're fearful, now you're scared, now you creating all this other stuff out of that fear. Be mindful of where you're operating out of, because that's really going to tell you what you're going to bring into your vicinity.
Yep,
So, yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Practice self-compassion. So it is important to be kind to yourself, even when you are feeling jealous. So remember that jealousy is a normal emotion, and it does not mean that you are a bad person. It does
Yeah.
not. No.
Please, none of this makes you a bad person. All the things that, I always like to point out, it's programming. We are like, the human brain is the best computer you could ever fathom. Like, scientists can't even top how amazing God has made our brain. And because of that, the programming it's real. So we all got to pay attention to how we were programmed, how we were raised,
What you put in it and what you get out
yeah,
of it,
yeah.
or what you
And
put
look
out
at
of
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how even those inner thoughts that are, you don't even recognize that, how they could be dictating the things you do, how you move, how you respond, like all of that. Really, you just have to pay attention and be compassionate for yourself, especially if you know you've been through some trauma, especially if you know you've been hurt. It's okay to recognize, like, hey, I've gone through this, and I've gotten through it, and I'm even stronger about it because you've learned better ways to deal with the aftermath of it. Because our whole society is kind of rooted in trauma right now. So it's really just about how you're able to cope, how you're able to move forward, how you're able to thrive and learn new behaviors that will help you move forward and move into healthier, habits and thoughts and stuff. So, yeah, I feel like we beat that up a lot, but it's a heavy topic, but it's real, and it's one that needs to be talked about. Yeah.
Yep. And I think is this the last point? Yep.
Yep, just about. Yep.
Yep. And so seek professional help. If you're struggling to
Yeah.
work through your jealousy on your own, if you're the type of person who always carrying bags into new relationships, if you're the type of person who start your relationship off in fear, then you need to seek professional help. You do. So stop trying to fight that. So if you're
Yeah.
struggling to work through your jealousy on your own, you may want to seek professional help, someone to help you understand your jealousy and develop healthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
with open communication and willingness to work together, you can overcome jealousy and build a stronger relationship. So you have
Yeah.
to be willing to work together in your relationship.
Yeah. And set those boundaries that may need to be set, have those conversations, even if it's a boundary on you. Like, if you recognize you're constantly pointing out, like, oh, are you doing something? Are you tempted to always search through your spouse's phone or whatever
Right.
because you're
Yeah.
going through something within yourself? Set some boundaries on yourself. Like, figure out some things that you can do for yourself that will help ease,
The
your
angst,
those
the anxious
unconscious behaviors. Yeah, that.
anxiety
Mm-hmm.
issues.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
With that being said,
Yeah. Any
any
questions?
questions,
This is
topics?
Full House on Instagram. What's today? Today's Thursday.
Yeah. Tonight's
Oh
Thursday.
wow.
Tomorrow's Marriage Fit Friday.
Yeah, y'all been
Marriage Fit
hanging with
Friday.
us.
Any marriage fit questions you all want,
Let
we'll
me
be more than
see.
glad to answer those questions or topics for tomorrow. So Marriage Fit is
Yeah.
basically topics that are geared towards marriage couples,
Mm-hmm.
maintaining marriage relationships, or how to get into one. So that's what we try to center it around. If we can be that crafty and creative.
Right. Yeah. It takes a lot.
Right.
That's why we be trying to get more and more questions in, because you're trying to figure out like how to create a whole, show around a question. Because truth be told, these questions are really great and they can apply to so many different people. You never know who could also be going through the same thing you're going through. And that's the another thing. I'm a big energy person. You'll learn that as much as y'all watch our show. But that's another thing about all these thoughts that have been created. Naturally, people can latch on to unhealthy thoughts and will start to create a lot of the same unhealthy relationships out here.
Oh yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely.
And it's so similar because of,
And
latching on to.
and there's a sad thing about it is that these people don't seem to know that it's themselves that's doing this, and they always blame the other person.
Yeah.
Often at times,
Yeah.
So
That's a
well,
hard thing to do. What is it? Accountability. That's always
accountability. Yup. Taking accountability, especially
Yeah.
for those people who don't know it. They need to take accountability for their actions. But anywho,
What time is it? This is a good one.
9:53.
Yeah.
Might be 10 o'clock.
Trying to think. We had some people join on. Do we need to recap? Is there any way we could recap this? It was a long one. Yeah, this is a long one. Play this back for those that just joined on. Because this was actually a really, really good one. So yeah.
We're going to
Certainly
post
play this
this.
back. Yeah.
But to all those who are here from the beginning, if you all know anybody who needs to hear this message, please share the video.
Yeah.
And also too, on our YouTube channel, please like, share, and subscribe our videos up there as well. We have a major influx of Instagram viewers. We love you.
Oh yeah,
Thank
we
you.
hit 6,000
Yep.
today.
Yeah, we got over 6,000
Thank
subscribers
you.
on Instagram
Thank you.
today.
Yeah,
Thank
seriously.
you.
That's so cool.
We're trying to match that on our YouTube.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So that we can help get into the YouTube realm and things. And then also too, be on the lookout for our video with the Daily Wrap Up crew. So we went to New York about 2 months ago. Did the Daily Wrap Up crew show. And it was wonderful. We getting the video was hasn't even come out yet. It came out on pay-per-view. Many people have watched it and already are commenting on it and how well it was. So that's coming out tomorrow on the Daily Wrap Up crew. So you all can watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, hopefully we get more interviews too and be able to have these conversations in different sectors and with different minds and people coming together.
Because with the hope of that show is that we're reaching the youth. So we're trying to reach the younger people out there that who are afraid of marriage and commitment and don't have a reference of what that looks like. Because we've came from it, we both came from single parent homes. So there's nothing to be afraid of. We've laid down the blueprint of what it takes to be in the marriage, to be in a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship, how to stay focused in that. And it's real easy. It's real simple, to be honest with you. It really is. But it takes
complicate things.
Yeah, but it takes some good amount of resources and then also to good people around you to support you. So
yes, environment. That is an excellent point. Good people around you. People underestimate your environment and how much your environment impacts the way you think, your outcomes, the things you go after, what you do, all of that is greatly impacted by your environment. Yeah.
Right. So I encourage you all to also, watch that video, please.
Yeah. That's why we do this every night, to be honest, because we recognize that this is
a need.
Yeah.
You all don't come we don't get all these Instagram people up here.
And because, YouTube
too. Yeah. For nothing. It's not for nothing. And we really appreciate you all. We do it for you all as a sounding board if you all need it. And also as a form of therapy for those who are courageous enough to talk with us live on air. So at any moment, also too, if you're new, you can talk to us live on air. Want to join in, ask a question, want to join live as a video. We
Yeah.
had those too.
We don't
Um,
bite. We really have committed this platform as something for God to work through.
right.
Not so much, something that this is really, we think of it like community service and how we're giving back something that God told us, this is important. Needs to be done. It's not for the money. We don't get paid for this. Like,
No, we don't. I
this
mean, we have options.
of
We have options,
monetizing.
right?
Yeah,
We
right.
have options of monetizing, but we don't. We currently don't.
No.
And
Yeah.
I mean, eventually we may, but
Yeah.
right now, I mean, that's not that. This is not the reason why we're doing this.
It's not.
So you can say we're doing it for the love, but
Genuinely, to create a better
right.
world for our kids to live in, your kids to live in, they kids to
The
live
generations
in.
beyond us, 100 years from now,
This
somebody
ain't,
going to find these videos and say these people had it right.
Yeah, because believe it or not, the people up top are thinking about our kids. They ain't really so much trying to corrupt us as much no more, but they trying to corrupt our kids. And it takes us to set positive examples because they not gonna give them to us. We
Right.
gotta
You
do
got to
this.
create it on
We
your own.
have to. We really do.
So with that being said, Blueprint family, thank you all for joining us tonight. And we hope to see you all again tomorrow night for Marriage Fit Friday. And you all have a wonderful night. Peace.